Greetings and welcome to another episode of the TED in Your Head podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. I have a special guest today. Her name is Sandra Villafan. Hi, Sandra. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ted. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for having me. So let me tell you a little bit about Sandra. She's a professional certified coach working with other professionals that are looking to get along better with their colleagues. I think everybody could use a little help with that. Her career has spanned the realms of higher education and nonprofit work, and Sandra is driven by a mission to empower individuals to unearth their inner strengths and discover their own answers. With her expertise as a life facilitator, her approach involves delving into crucial exploration questions and maintaining a curious mindset when engaging with her clients. Sandra holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from Antioch University, Los Angeles. She is a graduate of UC Davis's coaching program, and she brings a deep understanding of human behavior and specialized coaching methods to empower her clients. She has a professional certification by the International Coaching Federation, and this underscores her dedication to professional excellence and expertise in coaching. Sandra's passion also extends to advocating for foster youth and prioritizing support for underrepresented groups. And probably the most important thing about Sandra in regards to our conversation today is she is very close to getting her master's in public health, and her thesis is on the subject of menopause. And that's what we're going to talk about today, right? So
Yes.
tell us, Sandra, help us understand, and certainly help me understand because I'm a man, right? But most of my clients and much of my audience is women. So, what is menopause and what is perimenopause?
So when I started to prepare for this conversation we were going to have, and I was reviewing your questions, that first one caused me to pause because I think sometimes we use perimenopause and menopause interchangeably. But how are they different and how are they the same? You go through both of them sometimes at the same time.
Oh, really?
So, menopause is the year that your cycle gets wonky.
Okay.
And I use the term year loosely. It's the years in which your cycle gets a little wonky.
So
Some women,
you're talking about a woman's menstruation cycle starting to become very irregular and not
that's right.
consistent. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Not consistent. Interestingly enough, this morning, my stepson is here. We were having a conversation for breakfast, and his girlfriend told me how her mom thought she was pregnant
Mhm.
when she was entering perimenopause.
Okay.
And that was one of her symptoms. So perimenopause is the process in which women enter that what I like to call the last P. Um, so it's this is why I think the subject is so difficult for society, women, and individuals to grasp because it's complete variables, and every single woman has different variables that go into their years of having an irregular menstrual cycle. Then there's the perimenopause phase that can be congruent with menopause, which is the process that you go through when you're at the end of your reproductive stage. That's what it is. You're entering the end of your reproductive stage of life.
Okay, so ovulation ends, the creation of, ovulation, that process ends, and it could be a long process, could be a short process. It could start earlier, could start later. Okay, so what exactly is the difference? So, okay, so menopause is when, boom, it's over, the cycle is done. That's not happening anymore. And perimenopause,
That's post that's post menopause, actually. So see
okay,
how it can be wonky? There's it's like a cycle that
okay,
ends It's at post-menopause. So
Ah,
women enter post-menopause after 12 months of absolutely no menstrual cycle.
okay. All right.
So if you
So,
wanted to start backwards, post-menopause is at the end.
yes.
Perimenopause and menopause are simultaneous.
Ah, okay. Got it. Got it. So why does there need to be two different words? So what's the difference between perimenopause and menopause? I mean, how would people understand the difference between those two words, for instance?
Excellent question. And that is going to be a focus of my paper because perimenopause is when a woman starts to feel different.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Perimenopause, you may still have a regular cycle, but your brain chemistry, which is not something that has been studied, starts to shift. And that enters you into perimenopause.
Huh.
Perimenopause are certain symptoms that start to occur both in our human behavior, our emotion regulation, um, bodily functions start to change, pH balances start to change. We don't like to talk about that
Hmm.
because it's taboo. That's your perimenopause.
Okay.
And here's what's interesting, and I wanted to state this. Perimenopause can be entered as early as the age of 30, all the way to 60.
Wow.
I know, right? 3 decades.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
there's no rhyme or reason yet as to why this occurs. I have my speculations, but 3 decades a woman uh, has the her body's changing and will be going into perimenopause.
I don't think a lot of people or a lot of women know that. So that's very, very interesting to hear you say that. So thank you for making that distinction. Why is menopause an important marker for women?
The so I went into perimenopause on paper in my
Mhm.
medical file at the age of 38.
Okay.
Right? And it's important to note in my medical file, right? This
Yes.
is when it started to follow me. However, learning what I'm learning, I think I entered perimenopause at the age of 34, 35,
Hmm.
because I'm now looking back at a lot of the symptoms I was having at that time in my life that coincide with my research. But it wasn't until 38
Hmm.
when I snapped at my 70-year-old mother for no reason.
Mm.
I snap like I pounded my fist on the table
Mm.
and yelled at my poor defenseless mom. She had done
Mm.
nothing.
Hmm.
And that's when I realized, and at the time I was attempting to get my master's in clinical counseling,
Mm.
professional clinical counseling, my LPC. And I thought, okay, this behavior is not normal. What's
Hmm.
going on? So okay, I lost it. So that's when menopause became very important to me. So that was 11 years ago. And when I started researching it more from a therapist point of view, I started to notice women in a certain age range, and this is why it is so important, not just for women, but spouses and significant others, and even the workplace to start discussing this, is because we begin to self isolate
Mm.
or we begin to feel like, what is wrong with me? What's happening? What's coming up for me? I had a coworker that didn't go to work for 5 days and I needed her. I was acting director, and am I? What's going on, girl? Like, and at the time, because I had certain skills, thanks to that time in that master's program, I asked her very personal questions, and I'm like, "Oh, you're you've entered perimenopause. Go get yourself checked."
Okay.
Um, and she told me, "You saved my marriage," because I walked her through how to lean into the uncomfortableness, the sadness, the anger, and not to self isolate. I think that that's probably why, for me, as an advocate, it's so important.
Huh. Wow, you said a mouthful there. So
I
I
know,
can
sorry.
that's okay. No, please don't apologize. I mean, that's a lot of important information, and that is why that would be such an important marker or transitional point for a woman to understand what is happening. Because if that is not understood, that or those range of symptoms, uh, women could assume it means a whole lot of other things. Well, their spouses could assume, our marriage is falling apart, or my wife is not liking me anymore, or, having severe psychological problems. So there's a lot you can make that mean if you didn't understand that transition. So that leads me to the next question is how can a woman tell what are the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause? You just described one of them, right? So kind of emotional dysregulation, irritability. What are some of the other symptoms that if, our women out there listening or our men out there listening notice these symptoms, and a woman is, in her late 30s, early 40s, they can say, well, maybe this is happening.
Mhm. So, I love Brene Brown, and
Mm-hmm.
her talk on vulnerability that just catapulted her into the light.
Yes,
And it's vulnerability is such a powerful, um I'm going to call it a tool, for lack of a better way of stating it, because sometimes we do have to be vulnerable. It just is
sure.
what it is in order for progress to take place. So I am going to be incredibly vulnerable, and in answering this question, for me, my symptoms were all pH balance related. And I am talking about the taboo body part where women, it controls our lives. We feel joy from it, we give birth from it, we
Yes.
um experience our menstrual cycle from it. The microbiome of that area is an incredible force of our entire body.
Okay.
So that's when I started to notice a shift in me. And I, at the time, again, those changes started happening in me at around 34, 35 years of age. So I related really well when Halle Berry came out and said that she had been tested and or treated. I can't recall exactly, but she brought up that they told her she had STDs.
Mm.
And I said, aha, they would test me for STDs. And I would say,
Okay.
okay, I am in a monogamous relationship at the time. It had been
Yeah.
6 years. This can't, but things can happen. He could cheat, whatever.
Right.
So I started getting tested for STDs,
Uh-huh.
6 months, and it was not an STD. It was just the pH balance just shifting. So it's your secretions. For me,
Okay.
it was my secretions. They
Okay.
changed and they were different. And I think it is important to say that. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, I did a long post about a year ago on my LinkedIn page
Uh-huh.
and said that.
Mm-hmm.
My best friend was like, "Well, you're putting it all out there. Are you
Yeah.
sure you want to do that?"
Yeah.
And I sat on it. I did my little 2 day delay, and I decided, yes, it's important for women to know, because at the time the menopause conversation started to really climb and take off.
Yes.
But what was interesting is that everything I was reading from um, op-eds and essays from women,
Mm-hmm.
they kept saying other vaginal issues.
Right. So they
And
weren't being specific.
they weren't being specific.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, let's talk about what those are.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
for, yeah, let's talk about what those are. Because for me, that was my first symptom. For my
Okay.
best friend, her first symptom was hot flashes.
Okay. Got
So,
it.
so there is no one size fits all kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. So what about like urinary tract infections? Would that be a part
Yes,
or so more frequent urinary
absolutely.
tract infections?
Yes, that was my one of my other things. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, and of course that would involve the pH, right,
Hmm.
of the vaginal area.
Even
Um,
more painful intercourse.
hmm.
It changed.
Okay. Wow. All right. Yeah. And it's amazing to me that here in 2025, that still is, kind of a taboo subject or something that people feel uncomfortable talking about or hearing about. And yet it's one of the symptoms that a woman's body is changing. What are some of the other symptoms that you can describe for us that
Thank
women
you.
should
Yes.
know?
So I just put the other vaginal issues out there. Um, like I said, for my best friend, her first symptoms were hot flashes.
Right.
Um, I have had friends tell me they didn't go through any symptoms. And what
Okay.
is coincidental there is that the friends of mine who didn't go through any symptoms, they were on birth control pills.
Oh, okay.
So
So
I
boy,
think
that's a
those
whole nother
hormones,
variable. Yeah.
another variable. So Um, so for me was my vaginal pH. Some women can have hot flashes. Other women, brain fog is a huge symptom.
Okay.
Brain fog, where you know the word, you just can't say the word, and
Yeah,
you
right.
can't find the word in your head. Like you, brain fog, forgetfulness, just flat out forgetfulness. Uh, just whatever. The things that did not annoy you before are now annoying you, or vice versa.
So irritability
Uh, irritability
and
is big. Irritability is big. If you were a very patient person, you might not be patient anymore. That was me. I became impatient. So as we're talking about it, right? The biology of it and the
mm,
things I'm beginning to list, brain fog, irritability, emotional instability, these are all connected to the brain, not to our menstrual cycle. So that's the other reason why I became so passionate about this, because I'm also passionate about our brain and our human behavior. And I want to let women know, if you start to notice brain fog, if you start to notice that coupled with a change in your vaginal pH or hot flashes, they're not always at night, they're during the day.
mm,
That might mean you're in entering perimenopause.
yeah. Yeah. And it seems at least the women that I spend time with, they're a lot more likely to say, "Oh my God, a hot flash," right? So they're just going to put it out there like, "Oh, well, a hot flash. I'm really hot right now." Whereas before, I think women would try to hide that, you know, um, even though it was obvious they might be uncomfortable. So this leads us to the next question: why should men know about menopause? So here I am, I'm a guy, Ted in your head, right? I mean, I'm married, I have two daughters, so a lot of this is in conversation. Most of my clients are women, probably 70% or more of my clients are women, so I'm somewhat familiar with this, but I can really see that a lot of men simply aren't, or they don't want to hear about it, or they don't understand it. So, why should men know about menopause?
Uh, because they're going through the journey as well.
Right.
If you have a significant other or a daughter or a mom, which we all do, right? Have a mom. You're sharing that journey. The
Mm,
journey isn't about isolation, right? Going back to that. The other thing that I noted early on, 11 years ago, was I was curious. I became curious. is the increase in divorce rates during a certain age range
Mm.
correlated with menopause and perimenopause and
Mm.
postmenopause, right? I was curious about that. The suicide ideation increases in women who have it because of various factors, right? Everyone is different. So it could be self-isolation, it could be what the heck is wrong with me. The other big symptom that we didn't touch base on that is important, that was something that occurred between me and my husband, is weight gain. Your
Mm.
body just changes because
Mm.
of the decrease in hormones. And we now know a lot more about that than we did 11 years ago, than we did 6 years ago. Oh God, how long have we been together? He gets on me about this all the time. I don't know, 8, 9 years.
Mhm.
Um, and for me, I was gaining weight. I was a tiny size 2,
Mm.
and now I'm a 6. It, and that just happened in 6 years.
Mm.
Your body just changes.
Mm.
So I think for a man to take note, that your significant other is going to start to go through some, not just body changes that are physical and you can see them like a hot flash, right? And weight gain. There's also that um, emotional regulation piece that is
Mm.
so critical and important to understand from both sides. So coming up with communication for one another to cue in, today's an off day. That's what me and my husband ended up having to do.
Okay.
He thought he would do something wrong. He would wake up and say, because I would be quiet and I'm usually
Yeah.
not a quiet person. Um, did I do something wrong? Are you okay? So I learned to tell him today's an off day. And then he would steer clear
Okay. All right.
because he didn't deserve me lashing out at him for
Right.
just being there.
Right. Okay. A lot of men right now are probably going, okay, I get it, And so we could probably have a whole
Oh yeah.
conversation about that specifically. But
Hmm.
and thank you for so much for being vulnerable and sharing your own personal experiences. But the next question I have for you is, do men go through something similar?
Dun, 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 dun. Yes, they do. They do. Now, I haven't done a lot of research on it yet because there's
Hmm.
so much on menopause, but I am intrigued by this. I
Hmm.
looked this up um 11 years ago when I started going through this. It is called andropause. Um, I'm not sure why that hasn't even hit the surface of this is a thing, but I'm quite interested and curious about it. So we would have to stay tuned because I do plan on doing research on that next. I just haven't yet, other than I know it exists. I just met with a good friend yesterday for coffee, and given my background, he was just sharing some of his health issues. And I said, okay, wait, your age, yada yada. Okay, we laughed about a couple things, and I told him to get your testosterone checked because it might be andropause.
Right. So that would be one of the symptoms is a lowering of libido because of a decrease in testosterone. Maybe another symptom would be going out and buying a ridiculously overpriced sports car.
Urination. You're
Right.
it changes. It changes, right? And for a man, it's quite different. So yes, those things do tend to start happening.
So I would imagine
So
the
I am,
prostate is involved in all of this
oh,
as well.
yes, because I asked him, did he get his prostate checked?
Hmm.
And he had not. So that's what he was going to do. And I said,
Okay.
please demand to get your testosterone levels checked as well,
Mm.
which is a really important thing to talk about, I think, also is when we get our hormones checked, because there is a scale, right? There's a scale. And I
Okay.
have my own theories and thoughts on this scale and in our hormone levels. But what I will say and leave the andropause at is that the UK is way ahead of us on this, way
Interesting.
ahead. They
Okay.
talk about it open. It's very well known. I pulled a lot of my information from there that I'm holding on to for when I start researching that.
Okay, okay. I have had recent conversations among just men, brothers and other people my age. And yeah, that is more and more a subject of conversation. Certainly prostate issues, but also, getting testosterone shots and all of that kind of stuff. So that's coming out into conversation for men. They're more willing to talk about it because it's more out there now. And
That's
so
right.
let's finish with this question. So what can women do to experience this life transition with greater comfort and greater insight? What are some of the strategies or, what can you suggest or recommend to women that they look into or explore?
Um, first first rule of thumb is share and talk about it with a trusted person.
Hmm.
Find somebody, talk about it without shame, without feeling that you are broken. A lot of my knowledge came from a book called The Menopause Brain
Hmm.
that was written by a professor of neurobiology and radiology or
Hmm.
and she's a PhD, great information, wrote a great book that speaks to what is happening to our brain,
The
what is happening to
men
the female brain
It's called
at the
the
time.
menopause brain. Is that what it's called? The menopause
The
brain?
Menopause Brain, yes,
Okay.
by Dr. Mosconi. And I've learned so much from her,
Okay.
and various other, but I I think let's talk about it. Let's bring it into a greater conversation. Share with your significant others. Share with your kids because they also get the brunt of it.
Hmm.
You want to be sure that they understand that it's interesting in the household. We talk about puberty like it's because it is a rite of passage, right? Puberty
Sure.
is the rite of passage. And we talk about it. Oh my God, your first training bra, your first this
Mhm.
experience,
Right.
uh, somebody who obviously is born with female genitalia. That's the process they go through. And then you have somebody who is born with male genitalia. What they go through is voice changes
Yeah.
and a growth spurt and
Hmm.
facial hair and these other things that are all tied to puberty.
Hmm.
Puberty isn't a siloed experience. It actually is linear and it is connected to menopause.
Mm.
So it's a linear journey. It's not a siloed journey.
Got it. That makes perfect sense. Yes. Okay. All right. So women should, you recommend that women talk about it, share their experiences with other women, but also, you kind of alluded to not comparing their
Mhm.
experiences because the experiences between different women are so varied, right? And so I
Right,
guess if a
right.
woman starts to see any of these, or their husbands start to, or significant others start to notice any of these symptoms or changes, then they should go, meet with their medical professional and get a hormonal workup. Is that right?
That's right. And the other piece is really advocating for yourself because
Hmm.
um, biomedicine, as we know it right now, is it's needing to catch up to the needs of menopausal women. It's not there yet. And I talk about menopause at every turn that I get. If it's an organic way for me to introduce it into the conversation, I do. And I am astonished at just Wednesday, I was at a training and somebody said, "Oh, they tested me, but they said I'm fine. I'm not." And I said, "Now, you have to write down your symptoms, you have to compare them, do your own research and be your own advocate because the ranges, if puberty and menopause are linear and connected, then Dr. Mosconi calls it the three P's: puberty,
Hmm.
pregnancy, um, peri postmenopause.
Hmm.
If it's linear and a girl starts her period at 9 when another girl starts her period at 15,
Mhm.
and menopause is all about when you run out of eggs, then why wouldn't that 9-year-old girl enter menopause sooner than the 15-year-old?
That makes perfect sense. Never thought about
Right?
that before. Yeah.
So that's when I say at 38, they're like, well, you're on the low side, but you're within range. And I got along really well with my doctor. She was great, Dr. Reibel. And I said, but whose range, Dr. Reibel? Whose range?
Yeah. Right.
You didn't test me at 9 when I started my cycle. So whose range are we comparing this to? So that's where I think the bio model, the medical model needs to catch up a little bit.
Okay, okay. So this makes sense when you talk about being a coach that works with professionals that want to get along better with their colleagues. I would imagine part of that coaching involves, their age and maybe what they're going through as part of that work that you do with them. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So I'm excited that my website will be up and live. Definitely can find me there. I am on the Google atmosphere
Mhm.
by Googling my name. I'm there as well. And then LinkedIn.
Okay. And then your website is ventwithpurpose.com.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
VENT with WITH purpose PURPOSE.com. And that website is going to go live on the 14th.
That's right. Right.
Okay.
I'm all about venting with purpose because if you just continue to vent, you're just, it's a rant, right? You're not gonna,
Right.
there's no progress.
That is so true. That is so true. I had somebody tell me that they it was a woman actually told me that yeah, when my husband starts venting, I ask him, okay, you just want to vent, or is there something that I can do for you? Because if you just want to vent, you got 5 minutes. But if there's something I can do for you, that we could talk about it, right? She didn't want to be like the venting board, you know.
Right.
So that's awesome. That's awesome. This was such an interesting conversation, and so educational for me as a guy, and I'm sure lots of good information for women out there. And this is a conversation that is being talked about more in online and in these kind of platforms. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this. And again, if anybody wants to get in touch with Sandra and explore working with her, ventwithpurpose.com is going to go live on November 14th. You can also get in touch with her through her LinkedIn profile. So thank you everybody for tuning in today. And of course, we welcome your comments and give us some social media love by liking our stuff out there. And again, thank you so much, Sandra. It's been a really wonderful conversation.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.